Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with you on this 28th of June. As always, we encourage you to stay up to date with your local weather information. You can always do that by calling the Alaska Weather Information Line at 1-800-472-0391. Find us online at weather.gov/Alaska. If you haven't tried this on your mobile device or your phone, give it a shot at mobile, mobile.weather.gov, and then simply type in your place name, your village, your city, your location, your zip code. And that should bring you to a mobile-friendly page that you can bookmark, save to your home screen, and just use that over and over again. And it works a lot better than trying to load up the big monster web page. And if that's still too much, perhaps you're going to be out on the water this weekend or close to a cell tower or you're using satellite, try our text-only pages there. You can find those on our main website at weather.gov/Alaska. Set that up before you go out to sea, though. David.Snider@NOAA.gov is an easy way to find me on email. If you've got a question about what you're finding online, something you've seen on the show, or you just like to send me a picture of what you're seeing in your part of Alaska. I love to see the bears, the moose, the flowers, the fireweed, even as it gets closer to the top. Yeah, send me a picture. We'd love to share that with everyone else, too. Here's a look at fire danger across the region today. Some areas of smoke may be seen in the next couple days across the central and western parts of the Tanana Valley up toward the Kobuk and Noatak Valley. But as far as fire danger goes, we're still seeing increased levels of concern, let's say, across the upper Yukon, the middle Tanana Valley, and then westward along the northern edge of the Alaska Range, and then westward into the upper Kuskokwim, almost, not quite all the way there to McGrath. And then in the Copper River Valley, too, we're seeing some areas of increased concern. So what does this mean for you? Well, it is fireworks season in many places. Be extra careful with your fireworks as we're getting into that drier season now where some of the rain, kind of lets up and we get into some warmer days, some windier days. It's a lot easier for that fire to take off and spread. And the orange areas here would be some of those places where it spreads even faster. So just be careful and always be careful with fire. And consider what you're doing if you're doing any open burning. Make sure that you check in with your local fire officials and see if they've got any concerns about the weather for the day and if it is a good day to burn. Some places you can actually check that out online. If you have questions, ask for sure. It's a lot easier to ask before than to find out maybe you should have asked a little bit later on. So anytime you want to check this out, head to fire.ak.blm.gov. That's how we base the information from this map and get this in a place that it's a little bit more viewable for you. Here's a look at the visible satellite picture now, and you can probably pick out a couple of areas of rotation in the satellite picture. Those spins are areas of low pressure, one of them just south and west of Kodiak Island, another across the southern Bering Sea, and another developing in the heat of the day across the middle Tanana Valley. That's helping to stir up the opportunity for shower and thunderstorms there. We're seeing some of the lightning strikes this afternoon north of Fairbanks to areas just west of Fairbanks, and then another kind of spine of thunderstorm activity across the upper Koyukuk and into the Kobuk and Noatak Valley. Some of this activity will also increase out across western and central parts of Canada through the rest of today. The overall weather picture is this larger circulation in the upper atmosphere that's driving wet weather into parts of southeast and is still giving us a pretty stable, gentle southwesterly flow across most of the Gulf while giving northerly winds through a large part of the Bering Sea. High pressure is trying to set up here across the west. Underneath that, it looks like we're going to see some pretty widespread fog, generally west of the Pribilofs down toward the Aleutians. Adak and Atka could get in on some of that, as well as areas around Shemya. So if you're passing through and you're watching the show, hello everyone watching from the Great Circle, as you're passing through, there's a chance that visibility out here, if you're going through the shipping lane, really going to take a tumble here in the next couple days as high pressure starts to build in across the west. Other than that, seas should be generally okay. Here's a look at the weather map then for today. Low pressure sitting across the Bristol Bay region and also south of the Alaska Peninsula. Here's our wave of weather working across the Gulf. Really nothing much to write home about. It's enough to stir up the clouds and showers. And also across parts of southeast, we're getting a little bit more of an onshore flow, and that means a better chance of some rainfall there. Showers and thunderstorms forming across the interior, as you would expect on a summer day there, not to be surprised. Shower and thunderstorm activity is forming a little bit further to the north and west today, up into the Kobuk and Noatak, and also around places like Old Crow out in the northern parts of the Yukon. As we head into tonight, watch for that area of light rain to continue. Hit and miss across parts of southeast. It's not going to be a wall of water or any big heavy gully washer there, but it does look like you're going to see an opportunity for rain to continue. Showers still possible around low pressure sitting just outside of Bristol Bay. That's really not anything changing there in the forecast pattern as that we've seen in the last couple days. One thing you may see a little more of, though, with the circulation is smoke, again, across the central and western part of the interior. Numerous wildfires out there, and with that and the circulation kind of pushing smoke a little bit more to the north and west, we should expect to see a little bit more of that in the region, especially in the morning when that colder air stabilizes closer to the ground and helps to trap some of that burning particulate matter in a form that you can see, taste, smell, and maybe even wear. I hope not, but hopefully that's not bothering you folks too much, and nobody's property is in danger. Hopefully that continues to be the case. Showers across parts of the YK Delta and into Lake Iliamna tomorrow. If you're flying across the Alaska Range back and forth during the day, you'll probably have a little bit more of a lower ceiling and poor visibility to start the day, but by the afternoon, some of that should lift as it normally does. As we get into the afternoon, though, shower and thunderstorm activity should start to pop up again across the central and eastern chain. Light rainfall across many parts of southeast, the north and eastern Gulf Coast. Still looking like there's going to be some wetter weather. However, it does look like there's going to be a slight shift in that pattern to where you might get in on some warmer weather as we get into maybe Sunday and Monday. As this ridge of high pressure starts to build in, low pressure drops a little bit further south. This could allow heat to build in across the region and give many parts of south central more of a northerly flow coming off the continent. It's going to be a warmer and drier flow, but there's the opportunity for some shower and thunderstorm activity to form in the afternoon. Some of that could be over south central, the Kenai Peninsula, the Anchorage Bowl region, maybe not right over Anchorage, but close by, and certainly the Susitna Valley. You know how that goes in the Susitna in the summertime. Out across the west, shower and thunderstorm activity could also work its way closer to parts of eastern Norton Sound in the lower Yukon Valley into almost the Delta region, and closer to the Seward Peninsula. There is some cooler weather trying to form up across the eastern side of Russia. It doesn't look like it's going to amount to much. We've seen this pattern try to play out a couple times already this season, and usually this just kind of falls apart, so I wouldn't get really excited about that right now. High pressure, though, is forming again and strengthening as we get into your Saturday and Sunday out across the central and western Bering. Underneath that is what I was talking about for areas of fog to kind of increase across the region. Fog, not a stranger to the Bering Sea in the summertime, but certainly something to keep in mind as it looks like it will be rather expansive in coverage there across parts of the central and western chain as we start up the weekend. High pressure is also building across the Gulf. This will help to bring in some of that warmer weather and probably increase the chance of thunderstorm activity across the interior as we go. So kind of an interesting and perhaps even warmer weather pattern as we move into the first week of July. Let's take a look at temperatures tonight as we get into early morning hours tomorrow. Upper 40s and low 50s for southeast. South central also staying fairly mild, upper 40s to 50 degrees, warmer than it's been for several nights. Upper 40s to even mid 50s as you get for the central and western interior. Galena, one of the hotter spots at 55. The North Slope looking at temperatures that are at or just above freezing, low to mid 30s for you. Fort Yukon about 50, Eagle about 45, Fairbanks in the upper 40s there, Nome near 50, upper 40s for parts of south and western Alaska, the Alaska Peninsula and the chain. Still in the 40s, 47 in Kodiak, a high there tomorrow, back in the mid 50s, so a nice day on Friday. Mid to upper 50s for southeast. South central working its way back into the low to mid 60s again. The middle Tanana Valley, Fairbanks, North Pole all the way out to Tanana, probably looking at temps easily in the lower to mid 70s, 72 in Fort Yukon. Lower 40s for the North Slope, warming up there, and again, that's going to affect your ice coverage. Ice slowly melting away from the coastline as we get into the next couple weeks. And for southwest and parts of the Yukon Valley, mid to upper 60s, even 70 around Galena, Calskag, 59 around Nome, 63 in Kotzebue. Bristol Bay, King Salmon, Dillingham, you're looking at temps closer to 60. By Saturday morning, upper 40s for many coastal locations in the west, 45 for our friends in Shishmaref, 33 in Barrow and Utqiagvik, 40s and 50s for many in the eastern interior. Fairbanks starting in the lower 50s, closer to 50 degrees for many locations in south central, though Talkeetna could be fairly mild, upper 40s to about 50 for southeast. What about Saturday? As we get started in a kind of elongated holiday week, going into the 4th of July week itself, nearly 60 in southeast, warming up nicely there, closing in on the lower to mid 60s for south central. The interior, you're looking at temperatures that are going to start pushing toward 80 degrees, 75 Fort Yukon, nearly 70 in Fairbanks, 58 in Nome, Utqiagvik and Barrow, 41 degrees there. Looks like Prudhoe Bay and Deadhorse warming up even more. Southwest in the 50s and 60s.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to aviation weather now. IFR conditions are expected to hold across Barrow all the way out through Prudhoe Bay and Dead Horse out toward AKwx. To the west coast, St. Lawrence Island down through St. Matthew. The Pribilof's expected to have a Friday morning start at IFR, and many sections from the central chain westward toward Kiska, not quite to Attu and Shemya, are looking at IFR in the morning. Up around the Chilkoot and White Pass region through the capital city southward, it looks like IFR conditions, especially along the higher terrain, but MVFR through the inside passage and across the eastern sections of the Kenai Peninsula, south of Lake Iliamna, and through a large part of the higher terrain in the Alaska Peninsula. And hit and miss in southwest, you're looking at IFR to start your day. By the afternoon, we do expect little change across the north slope. You'll notice that IFR is lifting northward just a little bit. Adigan and AKwx Pass should be VFR, but of course, if your destination is looking at IFR, that could make that a little bit tricky. South of the Bering Straits through Savunga and Gamble, out through the central chain and the Bering Sea coast of the Alaska Peninsula and the eastern chain, you're looking at IFR. Most of the interior should be A-OK, but do watch for convection to blossom in the heat of the day. MVFR through a large part of the coastal areas of south central, parts of the Copper River Valley, and a large part of southeast will continue under MVFR. No big change for southeast by Saturday morning, maybe some improvement south of Hoonah out toward Craig and Klawock and into Ketchikan. South Central starting to see a little more MVFR in the morning around some of the higher terrain of the Alaska range. The interior is still looking at mainly VFR, but notice some parts of the middle Yukon and the lower Koyukuk and even the upper Kuskokwim could be looking at MVFR. IFR conditions south of the Bering Strait pretty much widespread across the Bering Sea and the Pribilos, the Nunivak Island as well. By the time we get into Saturday afternoon, no big change at all across the Bering Sea. Saturday could be a tough day to fly across coastal parts of south and western Alaska. IFR conditions continue for the north slope. A little bit more of a widely scattered area of shower and thunderstorm activity, and MVFR increasing in coverage across the interior, western Alaska's mountains, and of course across the eastern parts of the interior and the Copper River Valley. Coastal south central still looking at MVFR, hit and miss around Kodiak Island and the higher terrain of southeast, probably very close to Juneau and the Chilkoot and White Ranges there. Let's take a look at your pass conditions in detail. As we saw a minute ago, Adigan and AKwx Pass look pretty good. Watch for some thunderstorm activity there each day as we go ahead. For Friday, Lake Clark and Merrill Pass expected to see marginal conditions for looks like most of your Friday there, so no big change there. Rainy Pass also expected to see VFR conditions prevail. As we go through Windy Pass, VFR conditions expected there, and for Isabel Pass, Mentasta Pass looking to lean over toward marginal conditions as the day goes on. Tanita Pass looking for VFR, it looks like, for the end of the week. Portage Pass, we expect to see some improvements throughout the day, but IFR will probably start your Friday morning flying, and Chilkoot and White Pass also expected to see an IFR start there with some improvements through the day, and again, continuing that on through your Saturday. The Friday morning freezing levels, here we go. Some cool air still hovering across parts of southwestern Alaska, Bristol Bay and Kodiak Island. Levels there at or below 6,000 feet. But as you go northward, we get back into the warm stuff, anywhere from 8 to even 10,000 feet and higher. Also warmer air south of the Haida Gwaii region in the Pacific Northwest. Levels there climb very quickly. Out across the western Bering Sea, levels stretching anywhere from about 6,000 to 8,000 feet across coastal parts of Alaska. As you get out through the chain, levels there are higher, around 8,000 to 10,000 feet for your Friday morning. Icing potential is also pretty high up there. Most of what we're seeing there that could reach into the isolated moderate stage is above 10,000 feet across south central and southwestern Alaska and northern parts of southeast. Hit and miss across the interior, really sparse conditions for icing there, but again, watch out for convection to develop throughout the day. The jet stream's that fast-moving river of air that controls our weather here at the surface, and at about 30,000 feet, it's got a pretty pronounced trough or a digging kind of pattern here across the Bering and the North Pacific, and that southwesterly flow is trying to warm things up for the central and eastern Gulf. So if you're in south central and southwest and southeast and you've been waiting for summer to finally arrive, it's starting to look like that could happen as we sneak into early parts of next week, maybe as early as this weekend in some cases. Across the interior, things are warming up there and will continue to be warm. 9,000 feet, here's our low pressure system south of Kodiak, and another weak wave there across the eastern interior, a south and westerly flow running around 10 to 30 knots there. Out across the interior, wind speeds are fairly light, and a northwest flow across the Bering continues there. A slightly different position of the low pressure systems, but the general message is the same. Southerlies for the Gulf and light northerlies for the west, and very little turbulence to speak about as we go into the weekend.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NexRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NexRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute. So it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers a potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time, and current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We just launched the mPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska. And back with your marine weather now, the sea ice edge is starting to move into that climatological point in the year where we start to see it pulling away from the coast a little bit, and we'll have much warmer temperatures along the coast in the Beaufort in the next week or so that will start to be possible. So things are looking positive for some changes along the Beaufort Seacoast where we haven't seen a whole lot of activity just yet. One thing to note though, there is a section of some thicker ice just off the shore, so even as we do erode and melt away some of the ice closer to the coast, there's probably still going to be a strip of ice, maybe even within view there of the Beaufort Seacoast itself as we go forward. Here's a look at today's sea ice edge, and you can check it out anytime at weather.gov/Anchorage/ice. On to southeast now, southerly winds on the inside for the most part, 15 to 20 knots, gusts up to 35 in the Lynn Canal, light easterlies through the Clarence Strait, and more of a light onshore flow across the outer coast, 15 to 20 knots with about 6-foot seas in most areas. You'll see very gentle winds on Saturday, a light westerly flow or so, 10 knots with 5 to 6-foot seas there, and 15 to 25 knot winds on the inside with 3-foot seas in the Clarence Strait up through Stevens Passage and 5-foot seas as you get into the Lynn Canal. Southerlies up to 25 knots there for Saturday. Friday in south central, light winds, looks pretty good. 10 knots with a southwest flow inside of Prince William Sound. 2-foot seas expected there. 3-foot seas in the northern Cook Inlet. 2 to 4-foot seas across the southern half of the Cook Inlet with easterlies blowing into the Barren Islands and 4-foot seas there. Saturday, light southwesterly flow, 10 knots, 4-foot seas. Southeasterly winds develop in Prince William Sound. Only 2-foot seas expected there. And 15 to 20 knot winds across Cook Inlet. You're looking at 4 to as high as 7-foot seas just south of Kenai over Cook Inlet for Saturday. For southwest, we're looking at northwesterlies, very light and small seas inside of the Bristol Bay region, up to 5-foot seas though as you go down the Bering Sea coast toward the Alaska Peninsula. 20-knot winds are responsible for that. 10 to 20-knot winds east of Kodiak Island and south of Sand Point, 5 to 6-foot seas there. Northwesterlies inside of Shelikof Strait keep the seas small, but they're going to pick up a little bit more as we get into your Saturday with the southwest flow bringing 4-foot seas to the region. Look for westerlies inside of Bristol Bay, light winds across the southern end of the Alaska Peninsula, and west and southwesterly winds rounding the southern end of Kodiak Island and AKwx. Look for about 5 to 6-foot seas in the region for Saturday. Across the Aleutians, small seas and light winds for most areas along the Bering Sea coast. Look at that, 10-knot winds across the western chain and also across most of the central and eastern chain. The Pacific coast will see slightly higher winds and taller seas, 5 to 6-foot seas there expected on Friday. Northwesterlies a little stronger toward the eastern end of the chain, and you'll see those diminish as we get into Saturday. South and westerly winds in just about all areas, 10 knots and only 3 to 4-foot seas, with one exception, 5-foot seas west of Kiska, but all in all, not a bad Saturday out in the chain. For the west coast, northerlies coming down south of St. Lawrence Island, 10 to 15 knots in all areas, about 3 to 4-foot seas max, 2-foot seas inside of Norton Sound. And outside of the Kuskokwim Delta, look for 3-foot seas around St. Paul and St. George. A little bit more of a steadier southwesterly flow develops as we get into Saturday. You're looking at westerlies inside of the Norton Sound region, 3 to 4-foot seas max on Saturday. For St. Paul and St. George, 15 knots and 3-foot seas. North of Nunivak Island, 15 knots with a 3-foot sea, and about the same as you go up into the Bering Strait. Here's a look at Friday for the west coast. Over the ice now, 15 to 20 knot winds expected for the Beaufort Sea coast from the east. The easterly flow extends down toward Point Lay, and then a light southerly flow coming up through the Bering Strait and the Chukchi coast. Only 10 knots, though, with 2-foot seas expected. For Saturday, a little bit of a stronger push in from the south. That's going to bring some warmer weather to you. 15 to 20 knots with 3 to 4-foot seas there, and easterlies continue over the Beaufort. No big change there, about 15 to 20 knots expected for your Saturday. Here's a recap of the weather as we go into the weekend, looking for a few areas of smoke across the interior up toward the Kobuk and Noatak valleys. Otherwise, showers and thunderstorms are to be expected through the early afternoon and evening hours. Look for showers to continue across parts of southwest and the northern and eastern coast. Areas of light rain possible across parts of southeast. And we're going to watch for fog across the North Slope and developing areas of fog across the west and southern parts of the Bering Sea as a ridge of high pressure starts to build in that region through the weekend. That's going to shift more of the active weather a little bit further eastward, with a better chance of shower and thunderstorm activity to be widespread across the central and northern parts of the interior, even the west again. You could see areas of shower and thunderstorm activity closer to eastern Norton Sound and the middle Yukon Valley, Galena up toward Kalskag, and north and west. Look for low pressure across the eastern parts of Russia to move eastward. No sizable impact at all across Alaska. Look for some light rain in southeast and warming up as we head into the holiday week ahead. Watch for a better chance of showers and storms for many areas of Alaska.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.